What's going on YouTube, man? Welcome back to another video. Now before we jump in today's video, man, you should have know what you should have been did. Like, comment, and subscribe. We trying to save the world. Why I keep hitting my mic though? We trying to save as many people as we can. So make sure you hit that post notification bell so you don't get that post nut clarity, my guys. Now listen, today we got Sneeko and Andrew Tate talk about God, and I think this video came up in my recommended, and I was like, yeah, I gotta bring it to the channel. You know, if anybody dissing my father in heaven, if anybody talking about my father in heaven, you know I'm to the rescue, man. Stop playing. So, you know, I had to bring it to the channel, man. Without further ado, oh my goodness, I can't even talk. Without further ado, let's jump into the video.
So don't be that guy, bro.
But then I want to bring up Jordan Peterson said something that I really resonate with. He was saying that he struggles believing in God, and I was the same way as you, Andrew. I was an atheist for a long time. I grew up in the church, and then I rejected it for a long time. I didn't believe in God, and I think I found God from seeing all the evil that runs the world.
Oh, absolutely.
Seeing the demonic and satanic rituals that they do, that must mean in the inverse that God exists.
Completely.
Jordan Peterson said that it's best for him to encourage his followers to follow God because that's the best way society functions. So I am.
And listen to this, man. What Sneeko is saying is right. And I always feel like in every group, you can always tell which one God is kind of like picking apart from the rest. You know what I'm saying? Because look at Andrew Tate. This man came out of nowhere. He came out of nowhere, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? You got this guy right here. I believe this has to be fresh because he's definitely not fit. You know what I'm saying? So this has to be fresh. He got on an Andrew Tate shirt, and the man is sitting right there. Like, bro, you know what I'm saying? Like the mindset of these people, bro. So you can always tell who's kind of like set apart from the others. But let's hear what he got to say though.
I'm saying I always tell my stream to follow God. I praise Christianity, praise Islam, praise Judaism because it's good. But I still struggle with the belief that God is the Father. How much do you really talk about God because you believe in it? And how much do you talk about it because it's the best thing for the 50,000 people watching to follow?
That's a good question, but I absolutely and utterly believe. But I think that the way I view God is slightly different than a lot of people perhaps think of God. I don't see it. It's not a matter of reading the book and thinking there's a guy in the sky who's watching over you. I think that you can see God as an idea. Jordan Peterson's trying to tell his followers to believe in God because he likes the idea of the collective consciousness behaving in a certain manner. And I think that when that happens, God within itself exists. If you have 100 people in a room and they all do good things in the name of God, well, then God's real, right? Because God's making 100 people act good and righteous. So you can't say God's not a real force. Whether you want to call him a person, a force, an idea, an inclination, whatever it is, God becomes a real thing. I know that if you act in a certain way, if you act in a godly way, the world is a better place, and by extension God must exist. If you act in an evil way, then the devil must exist. Like you said, all the demonic dangerous things they're doing in the world today, does that mean there's a man underneath the ground covered in fire who's making them do it? Or does that mean that their collective consciousness pointed in a negative direction makes the idea of the devil itself a real thing? So I know that it's more about the collective consciousnesses. You know what I'm saying? It's about having all the people in the world looking in themselves in the mirror and saying, that's ungodly, I will not act that way. And that's why you can look at countries like the ones that Myron was saying to move to, the Middle East, where the fucking they're so ridiculous. You can walk the street in Qatar with $10 million in cash. Nothing's going to happen to you. Is it because of the police or is it because of God? Yeah, okay, there is serious punishment, but there's certainly not armed cops in every corner like there are in New York. There's certainly not CCTV in every corner like there is in London. There's certainly not any of the crime fighting apparatus that there is in the West. It's because people think that God wouldn't let me do that. So, and society functions that way. So yeah, I absolutely and utterly believe in God as an idea as a whole. And I think that's the most important thing. And I used to be an atheist, yes, but I feel kind of uncomfortable around atheists. And also another thing about atheism that certainly put me off it is all the people who champion it. Look at all the people who are championing atheism.
Gross.
Find one and just look, I don't want to be you. And that I've always said I would never adopt the thinking of someone who is sad. When I see somebody who is sad or depressed and they're unhappy, and even if we change subjects and they start telling me their opinion about fucking anything, World War II, fucking their favorite movie, their favorite song, their opinion's invalid to me. You're unhappy and I'm happy. So I don't want to think very much like you at all. I don't really want to adopt any of your thinking. Like you're saying, you've just told me you're depressed and unhappy and sad. Like most of my haters on YouTube will literally openly talk about the antidepressants they're on and their depression, and then come along and say he's a bad person, I'm a better person than him. I don't want to be like you people. That sounds like a terrible existence to have an enemy inside of your own mind. I have plenty of enemies in the world, and none of them are inside of me. My enemies are all outside of me, so I can see them coming. I don't have to fight my own mind. I have to fight everything else. If you're sitting there in a constant battle against your own mind, I don't want to be like you. So if I will not adopt the thinking of...
But we all know that we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, you know, but spiritual wickedness in high places, Andrew Tate, you know.
Somebody who is sad.
You're not really battling with flesh and blood. It's really on a spiritual level.
When I sit and look at all the atheists who are doing all this dumb shit, I don't want to adopt their thinking either. If I see a bunch of atheists and see they're all fucking godless, disgusting creatures, I don't want to be an atheist. I just look at them and go, no, sir, that's not my team. I'm going to change. So you have to also be careful. And that's another thing that's interesting. I think one of the reasons why I've managed to gain, and in fact, all of us, the reason we've had such large influences online is because people look at us and understand, you know, I could live his life. In fact, I want his life. To a degree, right? It's not just what we say, it's the aspirational aspect of the lives we live. And a lot of these other people, when they're sitting there giving their opinions, running their mouths, I don't want to have anything to do with their existence. And you should also, as a man, keep that in mind. When someone's sitting there telling you shit and you look at them and go, I would fucking hate to be you. Like, be polite, let them talk, listen to it, and then fucking blink and cure your brain, because you don't need that shit in your mind.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't even control what's in your mind, then you're going to have a really tough time in life, because it's way harder than that. At least that's within your control. There's so many variables out there. You could walk outside tomorrow and like get hit by thunder or get run over by a car. It's like you got to really maximize the things that you can control and have them in check so that you can go ahead into a world where you have zero control sometimes.
I believe that there is a God, and for me personally, I'm God-fearing because, once again, if you read the Bible, I don't mean to be a Bible thumper here, but Revelations talks about what's happening today in the current marketplace and the current world we live in.
I'm glad he actually said that, man. I am glad he actually said that. But listen, though, I believe that's Fresh who's speaking. You can't serve two masters, my brother. You can't be a part of this world and still say you serve God. You know, because then it questions me as to which God you're actually worshiping. You know, but let's see. Because you always got to test the spirit. You always got to see the fruits on people. You know what I'm saying? But I'm glad he brought Revelations up. I'm glad he brought up, you know, a little
And
Bible
that book
knowledge.
is pushing the agenda opposite to what the Illuminati's doing. So I personally think it's real because the good book says what's happening now. But that's just my opinion.
Did you want me to read some of these chats, Andrew, or?
I don't think there's anything that interesting in there. Guys, if you have a question for us, you can send us
But that was the end of the video, man. I believe in what Fresh just said. You know, that would be me in the group. That would be me in the group that would bring up the godly talk, you know, bring up a book in Revelations. You know, he's right. He actually has a point. The things that are going on in the Bible years ago, you know, the Bible also tells us that there's nothing new under the sun. The things that happened years ago are currently going on right now in just different forms. And a lot of people don't notice that. So I'm actually glad he brought that point up. But I'm glad that he stood up for what he believed in. You know, never hold your tongue. If you believe in God, don't be ashamed of the gospel, man. Don't be ashamed, because when it comes day of judgment, none of that, I was ashamed, is going to work in front of God, man. You know, so if you feel called to speak up, if you feel called to defend your Father in heaven, then do it, man. I'm all for it. You know, so listen, man, if you guys took something valuable from today's video, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, man. Share this video with a friend, because they most definitely will need it, man. And look, I'll catch you in the next one, and I'm out.